So, the main question from my TikTok people, they wanted to know was, how do you go from being an engineer to an artist? One person showed interest in going along that path as well. Another person was just kind of curious about my background. So, yeah, I'll talk about it here. So when I say I quit engineering to be an artist, I'm not trying to like rag on engineering, because I love engineering. I enjoyed learning and studying to be an engineer. I love building, I love designing, I love creating. I just don't love the corporate mentality, sort of cog in the machine vibes of the engineering world, so it ended up being not a great fit for me. I did several internships. I worked at a company in grad school. I learned a lot and did some really cool stuff, but not for me in the long run in terms of just mental health and being a happy, well-adjusted adult. So at that point, though, I had 2 degrees in engineering, and I wasn't really sure what my next move was, to be perfectly honest. Wasn't sure what my next move was. I had always done art in some form. I mean, like when I was young, I painted. I wrote a lot when I was young. That was probably the one thing that stuck with me consistently all my entire life, since I was probably like 8 or 9, is writing stories. So that art was always a part of me. Humanities, loved languages, always enjoyed art class. I started doing cosplay and costuming, and that just got bigger and bigger and bigger. I used to build stuff in high school. I would find excuses to build things. Like I was in Latin class, and we had a 3D project, and those are pretty much the only guidelines, 3D project. And I really loosely interpreted that. And I first year we had that project, I built a life-size chariot and brought it to school. Because why not? And then second time, I made a Thracian helmet and a sword. So my dad and I worked on the sword together. We forged it in his shop. It was really cool. So I've always built stuff. And I was probably 15, 16 at the time when I was doing those projects, and loved it. I made a drum set one time. That was awesome. So, it's always been there for me. And when I decided to leave engineering, I took a teaching job, because one thing I also always loved is sort of mentoring, giving back, helping others sort of find their way. And so I took a teaching job. At first it was just a small part-time thing. Then I eventually took a full-time teaching job. And let me tell you, teaching is really rewarding, but also really exhausting. And so I did that for a few years. And I taught all sorts of stuff. Physics, calculus, chemistry. Didn't love teaching that, I won't even lie. Manufacturing, engineering, robotics. Also taught Russian. I would say that I always found ways to incorporate art into my classes so that more students would find a passion there. I'd be like, whatever you're interested in. You want to learn how to make a leather purse. You want to learn how to make jewelry. You want to learn how to make a foosball table. Whatever. We're going to make it. I don't even care if I don't know how to make it. I'm going to figure out how to make it. The engineering part of me there. So that was really fun. That honestly, I wouldn't trade the teaching portion of my journey for anything, because I think approaching engineering and art as like sort of interdisciplinary really allowed more students to get excited about it. So I still taught them all the principles of engineering, but really anything they wanted to do, they could do. I had some students build just a fan for their bedroom. I had some students build lamps. I had people who got more adventurous and wanted to build like a distortion pedal for their guitar. That was a hard project. I won't lie. I didn't know anything about that, and I was like, guess what? We're gonna figure it out. Let's do it. That was difficult. But we figured it out. It took a while. But yeah, so I taught, and then during that time, while I was teaching, which was it was a lower stress job than engineering for me. So, in terms of, I'm not recommending necessarily that from engineering you transition to teaching. But I transitioned from a really high stress job to another job that still supported me, but was lower stress and allowed me time to really think about what I wanted and how to get what I wanted. And so while I was teaching, I started applying for opportunities, grants and things like that with nonprofits, and started getting more involved in my local art community. Just going to events, conventions, festivals, and actually talking to artists. And then really, it was a matter of I got a big opportunity after a while of trying. And so I when I got that opportunity, I quit my job and moved. And I fully committed. So I basically, granted, I was really lucky about the timing because it didn't involve me leaving my students in the middle of a semester. I don't think I would have been able to do that because I love my kids. Oh my gosh, I love them. So it didn't require me to make any sacrifices for my students. I don't know if I would have been able to leave immediately and just drop everything like that. It was right at the beginning of summer. So I was able to give my job plenty of notice and also, do that art opportunity. And then I fully committed. And the thing was, that first art opportunity, it was a big deal, but it wasn't enough money to support me at all. So I took it for the opportunity it was, but a lot of these grants and things don't pay enough for you to fully support yourself. So you need to have multiple going at once, or you need to have a part-time job or something. So that's what I did. I moved to where the art opportunity was, and I got a part-time teaching job. And I basically did that for a while, and then I got offered a really cool full-time teaching job that I took. It was a really cool job, big manufacturing lab, a lot of opportunity for me to do that engineering meets art thing, which I love. What I discovered though, for me, was that though I love teaching, I don't really, on the whole, I would like to do that more as a mentorship thing. I like giving back, volunteering at maker spaces to do that sort of thing. It's emotional. There's a lot of emotional gratification and fulfillment from what I'm able to give back to my community through mentoring and teaching. And I still do it. I do I do art teaching. I teach Russian still. Sometimes for pay, sometimes just volunteer, depending on what's going on at any given time. But I took that teaching job. It ended up not being as great a fit as I hoped. It was still a great opportunity, and I'm really glad that I got to do it. But in the long run, as I was in that job, I finally got offered enough art opportunities. I kept striving and kept applying while I was working that job until I was able to say, no, I'm okay. I've got enough exposure, enough of a client base to quit this full-time job and do full-time art. And it's still, I mean, it was still scary. But that's kind of like the general overview of my journey is I got in a job that was low stress enough to where I could also do my art. And I could also focus on how to achieve my art goals. And then at a certain point, you just have to take the plunge, and it's scary. And I'm still in like the fledgling stages of that plunge, meaning I am, let's see, I quit my full-time job in July of 2021, so not that long ago. And it's still scary. Like, you're like, oh, am I going to make enough money to pay my bills? I have some savings, so I'll be okay. But I'm doing pretty well. Like, I gotten paid every month since I quit my job, and I have grants going and opportunities, and yeah, so it's going well. But there is risk. I mean, there's no like risk-free version of doing something freelance. So yeah, I hope that answers your question a little bit anyway. Kind of more told you about my journey. But I'm happy to help with like resources or anything about grants or, okay, so the first one worked. This one just didn't work as well. So yeah, that's an overview, but yeah, just let me know if you want more information or a different kind of information than what I've provided. I'm happy to do it.